The president likes traveling. Simply that. When he's not traveling out, he goes to Bungoma. It's a question of orientation. That's why I say we need national discourse. We need to ask ourselves, because Kenyans have gone to school, whether it's standard 7, whether it's form 4. If it's standard 7 Kenyan, I can assure you, Richard,
sure,
can talk very good English.
You are just in time for Business Glide, your go-to point on matters business, economics and public policy at large. I'm yours truly, resident economist Richard Mwanje, and it indeed is always a pleasure to have you aboard the ship that is Business Glide. And with me is none other than the powerhouse think tank himself, former cabinet minister Ruto Arap Kirwa. Always a pleasure to have you on board, sir.
Yeah, I like your praises. You like praising me for me to relax.
No, but you are a man of many fasts.
Yeah, yes, I thank God for it, and at times you get humbled by the fact that you do many things in life, and when you meet people who appreciate what you've done, it gives you more days to celebrate.
More days to celebrate.
Yes.
Very well. That's perhaps what informs you aging like fine wine by the day?
Well, at times I feel I'm aging faster. I still want to be in this town. In this town? Much longer.
Maybe as a member of parliament, senator, governor?
No. In fact, for me, I would rather spend more time analyzing issues about this country. It worries me every day that we are going below the standards of the region and by the standards expected of our society.
Very well.
You know, Richard, one thing that I get worried, founding fathers of this nation promoted 3 things: a fight against ignorance, disease, and poverty. But it seems they should have added a raft of other things: issues of integrity, honesty, and appreciation of diversity. I say so because this is a diverse country, a country of many individuals, many societies, which are very good on their own, but if you do not know how to manage that diversity, you run the risk of polarizing this country and destroying it. Remember 2007? We almost destroyed this country. And in 2013, although I did not support the pair, Ruto, I feel it was the best thing to happen to Kenya, where the 2 antagonistic communities came together to form government. And whether that government lasted them 10 years when they were still friends or not, I feel that was a better healing. What should have been done, and I don't know why it was forgotten, is immediately after formation of the Ruto government in 2013, we should have been able to spend time doing a healing process so that we think less of our differences, we think more of our commonalities.
Very well.
Yeah.
The conversation, or rather the subject that should take the front row seat on our today's conversation is none other than the future of the Kenyan youth and employment.
Yeah.
Let's begin from the government's commitment to create as much digital jobs as they can, local here and beyond our borders. You've heard of Tab Tengele, you've heard of people getting dollars just from being on their laptops, and every man of digital jobs. It is just one of the avenues the government is trying to address the unemployment crisis. From where you sit as a seasoned public servant and leader, do you think the commitment on creating ICT hubs in at least every ward in this country is the easiest conduit for us to maybe penetrate these digital jobs to our youth?
Well, I think the government has very noble, I say noble advisedly, ideas, and I think it would be pretentious of me to say it is not a good idea. What worries me, however, is that as we do that, we must all the time be cognizant of the fact that these jobs must be quality jobs and must have a bearing on where they are anchored. Yes, you get your dollars. Is it sustainable? Yes, you get your dollars. What do you invest those dollars in that will create an economy that is sustainable? Number two, as you take your nurses to Canada, to America, to Australia, to London, are we having our own ratios of nurses to patients right? As we tell doctors to go elsewhere on their graduation, do we have enough people to take care of the patients, enough doctors to take care of the patients here in Kenya? As we do that, are we also cognizant of the fact that there are many people who are now being laid off by companies alone for 1 year, and this came from Association of Employers in Kenya. 1 year of Ruto administration or regime, we lost 70,000 jobs. Nation the other day was advertising that they are giving notice to 600 Kenyans.
Redundancies.
That they are going to be redundant in the next 2 months. Are we realizing that companies are closing? Are we realizing that Mama Mboga now, they are leaving the Mama Mboga business, they are going to be maids in various homes where it can be afforded? Are we realizing the motorcyclists or the boda fellow is playing pool in some local center like Sibanga in Cherangani because there is no passenger to take? Because you see, passengers is a product of economic interactions.
True.
Or transactions.
Purchasing power and all.
Purchasing power, and if let's say you don't have to, you have nothing to buy from Biribiriet or from another center, you have no business saying I just want to ride a motorbike. Or I want to be with a boda fellow. So what we should be thinking is to think holistically in a way that as we create jobs, we don't lose whatever we have.
Very well. Now that you mentioned about healthcare workers, the Council of Governors has actually taken concern with the mass exodus of Kenyan medical practitioners looking for greener pastures abroad. Yeah. And I should ask you this, do you consider that to be double standards and sort of pretentious from these very same devolved units of government, which will tap into the full potential of our graduates from medical schools and all?
It is a mongrel of a kind, a mongrel in the sense that we created systems that we do not seem to understand. Devolution is something very good, but it must be devolution not just in terms of physical structures or money. It must be devolution in terms of the services. Money follow the services, and those services must be effective in terms of what is it generating on the ground. For example, many counties are raking in less money in terms of value than the money the original county councils were collecting. Why? We are waiting for the national government to give us money, and we are not improving our own sources from local activities that we undertake as a people.
Very well.
And it doesn't have to be this boy at the roadblock telling you to pay money for sales. It can also be transactions that are taking place within that particular area. The government of the county is getting some money, and that money is properly utilized. Finally, these devolved units, how much are you spending on recurrent and human resource capacity? Most of the counties, the best, are spending less than 70% on recurrent, and therefore 30% on development. Most of the counties are spending only between 15 and 20% on development.
Very well.
These are facts that nobody needs to tell you. They are available, and the controller of budget is always complaining.
Rightly put there. Let me ask you, even for Kenyan youth, say the majority who are employed, we are still seeing them coming forward and issuing their distress and complaining that it's high time as a country, through trade union movements and through other partners, to address minimum wages in this country, that is Kenya. Do you find that time is ripe even for the sitting administration to really look at remuneration, addressing minimum wages, and even the general welfare of a Kenyan worker?
Yeah, given the devaluation, when I left Parliament, my pension was equivalent to about $2,000. Today, if I was getting equivalent of $2,000, I would be a very rich person. I get less than $1,500. Yeah. So what does it mean? The quality, the value of the shilling today has diminished in a way that if you are earning 30,000 today, is like somebody who was earning 10,000 20 years ago. So effectively, if you are earning today 30,000, you are not likely to make ends meet, because when you go to where you live, whether it is in Kasarani, whether it is in Ngong, you will pay not less than 5,000 from your 30,000. Fare alone will take another 5,000 to 7,000. And when you calculate, just to keep you in that unit in Ngong, you will need about 45,000.
Very well.
What do? You have to look for ways of getting the 15,000 to fill the gap. And that you have not even considered your sort of some kind of leisure over the weekend. So effectively, people who are earning 30,000 are living on 50,000 kind of capacity. Then where do they get the 20,000? Corruption.
Very well.
So corruption is a product of our social dynamics. Yeah, it's not really a product of economic challenges.
In the interest of time, second last, let me ask you this. Do you find our curriculum, education curriculum as Kenya, to be the author of our unemployment crisis, whereby some argue the Kenyan education system does not offer optimal quality for our youth to compete even on a global scale and perspective?
Well, I never like declaring. It's not about me. It's about the reality there. Kenyans, whether they're 844 or old system like my system, they have gone to school sufficiently. And there is no school that will teach you everything, including how you will live your life. Even when you go to school of law, for those who are lawyers, after university degree, the school of law will not teach you how to deal with every litigation. You will have to go to practice for you to learn the trade of litigation in a court of law. Now, what am I saying? What we need to do is to understand our system, whether it is CBC system, whether it is the old system 844. Personally, I taught during 844. The first 844, 1986, I was a teacher, though untrained technical teacher in one of the secondary schools. And the content was heavy. And the rallying call at that particular time was Karakana, workshop, which I subsequently built so many of them through Arambe in Cherangani. But what happened is that soon what we are calling technical ended up now being academic, because we are looking who has gotten 500 marks. By then we started with 700 marks. Now we came to the standard 500 marks. Who has gotten over 400, who has gotten 350 to go to which school. We lost the script that we wanted to equip people with technical expertise for purposes of the industry. Even this one, the CBC, even these Karaganas or the TVETs that the president talks about, what is the policy consideration? Now today, if I live as a mason and I know how to lay the brick and the mortar, and I have certificate that have this qualification in masonry, and you appear in a school, are they going to look at our expertise, or they will look for whoever is closer to you to give you that particular job? What is the policy position even today, that whoever is building CDF projects must have this kind of skill? That should be the policy position, so that we are able to say, wewe ambao hujasomea kiwango, you are not supposed to do this. Wewe, who was this experience, expertise, and certification, you are supposed to do this. So it's a question of orientation. That's why I say we need national discourse. We need to ask ourselves, because Kenyans have gone to school, whether it's standard 7, whether it's form 4. If it's standard 7 Kenyan, I can assure you, Richard,
Sure.
can talk very good English. And at times we interact with foreigners. I told you I was in Ethiopia for 4 years as IGAD special envoy to Somalia. Anytime I came with some of the Ethiopians and they listened, they would ask me, what level of education? I tell them this standard 8. But their English is perfect. So at times we burden our youth. We bash them for mistakes they don't know. Most of these youth, you know, people are suffering. Even you go across to Tanzania, these are our neighbors. You go to Uganda, you find any standard 8 in Kenya in terms of performance. They do well. Many of our people, when they go to Kampala University or even Makerere, they get first class.
They are the best.
Because they have been prepared very well. So I don't blame on education system. I blame it on our orientation, our thinking, our policy information.
Very well. Very last, let me ask you this. You've taken concern with President Ruto's many trips abroad under the guise of I'm looking for jobs for these very same Kenyans who voted for me. Do you believe that there's an open window, an open tab for him to tap into, and that is leveraging on our diplomats abroad to do the bilateral labor agreements and searching for labor jobs for youth instead of him being out and about every other time?
Well, I think the president likes traveling. Simply that. When he's not traveling out, he goes to Bungoma. I mean, and at times, some things he does in Bungoma could have been done by the county commissioner or the governor of Bungoma. He likes traveling.
Our ambassadors can do that job.
Or even ministers. Some of the things can be done by ministers. You know, ambassadors are actually presidents abroad, because the origin of diplomacy was I send somebody to you, and in the acrimos that they present to you is that when you hear him speak, it is me speaking to you. That is basically what it is. And for those who need to learn more about diplomacy, the embassy of Ethiopia here in Kenya, that space near State House, is the soil of Ethiopia in Kenya. And you are not supposed to violate by even the police entering forcefully into that area of the embassy. So, you know, what the president is doing, he likes traveling.
Utalii.
Yeah, ni mutalii.
Well, that point takes us to the wrap of this conversation today on Business Glide, talking matters employment and the future of the Kenyan youth, and whether the government is actually putting in place sufficient measures and strides that will really secure a better future for our youth. Time now for our Founder of the Week. It is none other than Mwangi Ndegwa of Ndegwa and Ndegwa Company Advocates. Always a pleasure anytime you tune in with other lawyers out there. We really don't take your support for granted. Until next time, do have yourself a good day. Up next on your screen is the Business Glide African Proverb of the Day.